In the previous videos, we decided to modernize MedRec to cloud-ready. We also saw that the technical debt was significant, leading to a medium modernization effort with a score of 2 out of 5. In this video, we will demonstrate how to decouple MedRec into 3 macro services, or web apps. Let's first move on to the discovery phase. From the dashboard, we will initiate a real-time discovery of MedRec. To do this, we switch to the application-specific view and select the associated controller. This controller acts as an interface between the deployed application and the vFunction solution. Once the controller is selected, we will launch active discovery to determine the domains, functions, and resources used by the application. From there, we will switch to the application as users. To achieve a complete discovery, it is necessary to cover the maximum number of use cases. MedRec being an application with a user interface, we will use it with 2 personas, the practitioner and the patient. The goal is to generate as many interactions as possible for a comprehensive discovery. Therefore, a prerequisite is to have sufficiently rich test cases. We first log in as a practitioner and perform a few actions. For example, we search for the patient record. We do the same as a patient and execute a number of actions, including triggering the chat between the practitioner and the patient. Complete coverage is beyond the scope of this video, but we will continue assuming that it has been done. After this discovery, 9 domains have been identified, along with 150 functions and 57 resources. The color of the different domains and their size provide 2 pieces of information. First, the color indicates whether the coupling of classes and resources is strong or not. Green signifies low coupling, while red indicates the opposite. Secondly, the size gives an indication of the number of classes present. The goal now is to reduce the number of domains and ensure that they are all green. Let's first switch to the view of a complete discovery. We see that there are a total of 17 domains after executing all the test cases. On the right, we find each domain along with the number of associated dynamic classes. For example, in the case of patient search, we see in detail that there are 2 entry points, 5 dynamic classes, 9 static classes, and 1 resource. If we zoom in on the 2 entry points for the patient search, the work of transforming the application code begins. This is carried out by the software architect of the application, assisted by the vFunction workshop. Without going into the details of the vFunction modernization workshop, the goal is to create the 5 macro services and ensure that they are exclusive to one another. This outcome allows for the creation of the 5 web apps that will replace the monolith. In the case of patient search, we now have 3 entry points via REST APIs. Once this decoupling is completed, we will extract the 3 services that interest us. Then we switch to the service creation view, which will allow us to extract the cutting patterns from the original source code. During this extraction, we select the target platform, the version, and the type of assembly tool to be used. Once the configuration is done, we download the patterns and just need to follow the instructions for disassembling the source code. Once the code is extracted, the development teams take over to make the final modifications to the source code. In the software workshop displayed on the screen, we see the 4 new source code directories. 3 pertain to our new web applications, while the 4th groups the new common libraries. Looking more closely at the right side of Visual Studio, we see the files that need to be modified for the new patient search module. These modifications concern 3 main categories. First, the application runtime elements. Second, those related to the intrinsic structure. And finally, the classes enabling access via API. In total, this represents between 10 and 20% of the code. This highlights the benefits of such tools, which drastically improve modernization times. All that remains is to reassemble the macro services and deploy them on the new hosting target. The final phase involves deploying the 3 applications on 3 distinct Docker containers. We do not cover the integration and continuous delivery phases, but instead use the built images for deployment. The Docker interface clearly shows the 3 built applications. Each one is autonomous and offers its own REST API services. The database is the same as that of the original MedRec application, allowing interaction with the same data. Each container contains a WebLogic server with a newer version than the original. A server and the artifact built from the source code decoupling are deployed there. The modernization is therefore limited as the adherence to the Oracle WebLogic Foundation remains. However, thanks to the decoupling into 5 macroservices, each can have its own life cycle. For example, the evolution velocity for the chat service may be much greater than that for the search service. This decoupling provides that flexibility. Additionally, using a container foundation will allow for shorter delivery cycles and more agile deployment strategies. The patient search service is now available via a REST API. A global or unit search can be performed. This is done on a headless service, allowing for the creation of a new user interface, for example in low code, while overcoming the debt. The modernization is far from finished, but this is already an important first step towards its implementation.